back in 2019, I made a video about crazy onstage meltdowns in rock, and it now has 1 million views. As a thank you, I decided to list off 10 more. Also because, unfortunately, there will never be a shortage of wild onstage rock meltdowns. The biggest difference this time is that on this video, there will be some meltdowns that are totally warranted. Sometimes freaking out at work is gonna happen, so same thing goes for musicians. This is not a top 10, no ranking meltdowns and hissy fits, just a list. I also chose 10 different bands and musicians from last time to add variety. Sponsored by Factor. The rising cost of fast food is astronomical, and it's terrible for your health. I get the convenience has a big appeal, but you can have extreme convenience and not pay as much for fast food and have food that tastes great while being great for you, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie. Get chef-prepared meals on the table in 2 minutes with Factor's ready-to-eat meals so you can get back to your day-to-day life without debating what to eat. And when life gets hectic, Factor is flexible. Change your order up every week with plans from 4 to 18 meals per week, or pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. Get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders using my link. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. Thanks to Factor for sponsoring this video. Subscribe to Factor with my code for a huge discount and to greatly support the channel. Please hit the like button and subscribe. It does help out a ton. You know how these videos work. Let's get to it. Starting with the most recent entry, as it's barely a month old and it could spell the end of Jane's addiction. Ever watch a train wreck in slow motion? That's what this rock concert in Boston was the equivalent to. This was already on Jane's Addiction's 2024 tour, where Farrell had been intoxicated before several shows, and at this show in Boston, Farrell became straight up belligerent when he thought Dave Navarro's guitar was louder than his own live vocals. In this viewpoint, you can see a deranged look on Farrell's face when Navarro is just lost with what's going on. It took several people, including bassist Eric Avery, to restrain Farrell and keep him down. Show was over. Turns out Farrell also took another swing at Navarro backstage as well. Shortly after this, the announcement of the tour cancellation came out. As of now, Farrell has posted he's getting serious medical attention, and Navarro made a comment saying that he doubts Jane's Addiction will ever perform live again. Hard to argue with Navarro after being in the middle of all that. What? Someone from Kiss acting up on stage? The entire band acting up on stage even? Yeah, this shouldn't be a surprise as there are multiple examples of this, but now we are checking out an example from 1999 that's somewhat warranted. I say somewhat warranted because if I was trying to perform in front of thousands and someone was shining a laser pointer in my eye, I'd be a bit annoyed as well. Whether I'd stop the entire show and have the band stand in front and center with me to call it out is another story.
Bring that guy up here with the laser. Come here, schmuck. Who's got the laser over here? Yeah, that guy right over there. Take the laser out one more time. I'll put it right up. Promise. Go out and get that guy. This guy's such a big man over here. You want to come up here? You're such a big guy. Put it in your pocket or I'll put it up your. But you're a little schmuck. Your mom should know that you're here with a little toy. Leave it home. Okay?
There's being annoyed by someone with a laser pointer, and then there is acting like a teacher to a bunch of grade schoolers and calling the principal in just to make a statement in front of the class for misbehaving. I like to think of Gene Simmons as the principal in this nightmare school. And to point out what many people have joked about over the years with this fiasco, a laser pointer should not be pointed at Kiss while performing, as they have Peter Criss, who is a cat man. A cat will always lose its mind with a laser pointer.
Take a look at yourselves! You're awesome!
Time for an ugly one where the meltdown is warranted, but as it went on, it got worse and made Courtney Love look worse also, because nothing can be easy to process. It always has to be tough to watch on a breakdown on stage where the crowd is either angry or confused, or both. In 2011 in Brazil, someone brought a big Kurt Cobain poster and held it up to Courtney Love, which, yeah, I'll bet that put her off her game when trying to perform. It all goes downhill from there.
You know, I don't need to see a picture of Kurt. And I'm gonna have you moved if you keep throwing that up. I'm not Kurt. I have to live with this and this ghost and this kid every day. Throwing that up is stupid and rude, and I'm gonna beat the you do it again. Oh, you weren't married to him. I was. You didn't get kicked out of a band by him like Dave. He did. Go see the fighters and do that.
So if you could follow, the rant went from accusing the sign holder for being a monster, to having to deal with Kurt's child, to telling fans to hold up signs of Kurt Cobain at Foo Fighters concerts instead, and a whole mess of other things that I will not be repeating. What a mess. I understand the cause of the meltdown, but the direction of all the things spoken to that Brazilian crowd sure was a choose-your-own-adventure story of what happens next, and I'm quite certain it left everyone confused and unsatisfied with that ending. Is everyone in the wrong? Maybe. I don't know anymore.
I care what you listen to at home, but a guy takes money off my kid's table.
Let's go back to 2001, where Stone Temple Pilots were past the grunge glory days, but still churning out radio songs and touring successfully. Well, successfully is somewhat subjective, as I'm not sure if I saw Scott Weiland freaking out like this, I could actually call it successful. I get the anger though. Someone threw a beer at the band on stage, and not only did Dean jump down to fight the beer thrower, but Scott Weiland went off on a profanity-filled tirade, including saying that he had already been to jail.
Here I come, I saw you from skinhead, get up on stage, skinhead, you little hide behind your neck, get up here on stage, I'm inviting you right now, my guitar player weighs 65 pounds soaking wet and he's kicking your I've been in jail, how about you? Let's have some sex in my dressing room.
We're gonna play for 2 hours tonight.
I debated putting this one up on the list for how much censoring is required for YouTube, but it definitely counts as losing it on stage, so I felt it important to share. As much profanity as the old Cat Williams stand-up specials on Comedy Central. Weiland apologizing for ruining the Zen-like moment for everyone is somehow the icing on the beer-soaked cake, after shouting threats through a bullhorn to a crowd who undoubtedly could not see what was going on.
Try to ruin the Zen-like moment for everybody.
Why in the world would anyone try to mess with Shirley Manson? Well, you ask yourself that question, as I have a few times now. This event happened in 2012, and Shirley rightfully went off on the moron, throwing things at her on stage in Portugal. This is another one that the anger is warranted, and it was during Garbage's return tour with a new album to push. Garbage was back. Everyone should be happy. This is the one type of garbage that makes everyone happy. Why would you throw anything at Shirley Manson, you psychopath?
I will get you so badly you'll be home to your mommy crying your eyes out. So I've given you one warning, and here's how we make this work in my shows. If you see anybody throwing anything at anybody else, you tell me about it, or you tell one of the security officers at the side of the stage. You fucking listen to me, boy. When somebody tells me there is a problem, you will be found. I will ask the crowd to move away from you, and you'll be left standing on your own. And then I'll get the security officers to come down and pick you up so bad. Don't with me, I'm not in the mood. I'm on my period, I can eat meat.
I know enough about vegetarians and vegans to know that if they say they are angry enough to eat meat, then you've really crossed a line. I can't say I blame Shirley for getting angry either. I also love how he said, "You listen to me, boy," and then said she'll have everyone in the crowd move away just to point out who did it and have security rough them up. There was commanding an audience, and then there was commanding an audience, security, lighting, all venue staff. Just don't cross Shirley Manson. Terrible idea. Right, buddy? Yeah. See, he had a lot to say about it too.
I'm on my period, I can eat meat.
I'm not a fan of hecklers, but musicians and artists should know how to not handle a heckler. And Billy Corgan made the situation weird. I mean, I know he thought he was owning the guy with a witty retort, but yeah, he made things more uncomfortable. A heckler who had been shouting stuff at Billy was brought up on stage with security, and the heckler complained about the previous night's performance. Here's the back and forth.
Look, Machine, all right, heavy metal Machine, that's cool, dude. Oh, me, on the stage is kind of that's what you said last night, huh? You got there? You gotta get it all off your chest, you gotta say anything else. Last night's show sucked, man. Alright. Did you like your money back? Did you like your money back?
Oh, get up!
No. I was just kidding, man. By the way, I like that song you wrote. That's a good song. I like that song you wrote.
take your was take your and stick it in my mouth. That was your number one hit. That I remember.
Those zingers sounded like they were written by a 13-year-old who had nothing better to say and didn't just want to yell, "Your mom," and run off giggling. That's what Billy Corgan was up to in 2008, everyone. Some people say this whole thing was staged. If that's the case, then this is really sad to get attention and a chuckle from an audience, which is an entirely different kind of meltdown. No wonder people kept leaving the Pumpkins over the years. That's embarrassing. Adding a TV performance, as it was definitely on a stage in front of people performed live, and it definitely qualifies as a true meltdown. The Vines were in a rough spot with this live show, and doing it in front of a snarky, condescending David Letterman and CBS staff will not help. What many people don't know about some of these TV tapings, or at least years ago, is that sometimes directors and network staff would force a musical guest to practice over and over before doors open so it's cleared for TV. The Vines were on record for having to practice for over 6 hours. The same song. Literal insanity incoming. I mean, if I had to do that for 6 hours, I'd lose my mind too. I wouldn't care about the opportunity or it being an introduction to a new audience. There's a thick line between practice and being run ragged. The Vines had enough. Apparently David Letterman didn't care either way.
You know what? I think they're troubled teens.
I hope they're not neglecting their studies.
Yeah. At 2.5 minutes with the wolf howl, you can totally see the man's psyche breaking. There's a professional way to say you've had enough of something, and even if this was unprofessional, I'm glad I saw it. The Vines are known for this song, Get Free, and getting ridiculous on The Late Show. This is a case of don't call people out if you don't know what's going on. David Draymond of Disturbed isn't exactly a laid-back person, however, and if he sees someone at his concert who already paid, mind you, not giving precious attention, then he's gonna say something. Draymond saw a fan sitting front row on a balcony, texting and using their phone during most of Disturbed's sets. This is not the first time something like this has happened to anyone, but Draymond decided to stop the whole show over it.
Oh, upper balcony, what am I gonna do with you? Especially this one. Yeah, you, brunette. Yeah, hi, how are you? So what is so important going on in the world that you need to be texting the entire the whole show? You're right up front, I can see you. Clear as day. You've had your face in your phone the whole show. Are we that boring? Well, don't tell me to go yourself. You already did by looking in your phone instead of paying attention.
Turns out the fan was texting their own child who was at home in a wild hailstorm and trying to calm their child down, and that mom would be home soon enough. This may sound ridiculous, but I actually think that's a good reason to text during a concert. Draymond would apologize for it later, but it also was at Disturbed's own detriment, because if Draymond would have not said anything, the whole situation would not have happened, and he wouldn't have looked like a boomer yelling at the kid on their cell phone during a show. Why would he care? He already had the money from their ticket, and he was there in front of a full crowd anyway.
Seriously, it's rude. It is.
Kurt Cobain having a meltdown on set. The sky is blue. I get that's not totally unknown. This meltdown, however, was beyond self-destructive as he tried to have a pro wrestling hardcore match with himself live on stage at a concert. Safe to say he lost. Cobain was reportedly inebriated before the show took place, and during Negative Creep, mid-song, Kurt had enough and decided to destroy literally everything he could find, including his own head at some points. It was when he started ramming himself into stage equipment that I think people realized the show was not going to continue on and that the singer of Nirvana might need to calm down a touch, and that the roadies were going to have a long night ahead of them. I pointed out this example for Nirvana because not only was this chaotic and a meltdown, but also, how did Kurt Cobain not seriously hurt himself after all this? I mean, there are rock stars that get injured by just slipping on stage. Meanwhile, Kurt Cobain was here as a one-man demolition derby without a car. Surprised that Falling in Reverse is on this list? Well, you shouldn't be. Back at one of the notorious Blue Ridge Rock Fests, this time 2021, Ronnie Radke and company were doing their thing with Ronald Radke's own kids on side stage when Ronnie saw something that made him lose his mind. In the crowd was a middle-aged man wearing a t-shirt that said, F Ronnie Radke. That was it. That's all it took. Show came to an abrupt halt and Ronald the Clown started up his shenanigans.
You do not want to smoke, Ronnie. I will beat your this is not Twitter. I'll beat your How old are you? Well, you're like 40 in the front row with a self-made Ronnie Radke shirt. Respect for you, us, and yourself, man. It's disrespectful. You're a you ain't Ronnie. Ashamed of yourself, man. You should be ashamed of yourself, man. I beat up people like dudes on his shoulders. I'm not playing with you. And if I won't do it, my dad's biker gang will, homeboy. You think I'm people try to test me. This is the reason I went to jail, because of people like
Nothing speaks to how tough you are than being in your late 30s and telling another grown man that he'll sick his dad on you. It's been 3 years since this happened and I'm still having trouble processing the hissy fit. Throwing that much of a fit over some loser wearing a t-shirt at a festival is the equivalent of a real-life troll making a lame tweet. But Ronnie decided to have a huge statement about it all. Imagine if Ronnie had an ounce of restraint, just a little. So many of his embarrassing meltdowns like this would never have been caught and recorded. Also, telling someone you don't want the smoke and then going to, I'm gonna tell my dad on you, it doesn't really mesh that well as a threat.
I'm serious. You know it too. I'm looking in both of your guys' eyes.
Some of these meltdowns were warranted and I get the anger. Others were totally at the fault of the musician who cannot control their own emotions. But it's worth pointing out that each meltdown was at least from an adult. Except the last one where a grown man threatens to tell his dad on someone. I mean, that is a playground hissy fit reaction. Thank you again for getting the original video to 1 million views. That's still kind of surreal to me. You can check out that video in the pinned comment and on the right side of the screen. In the meantime, like this video if you enjoyed it, and don't support bands who thrive on reacting badly on stage for attention without the talent to back it up. You can figure out who I'm talking about.